Hey guys, welcome to another weekly focus. So I hope you had a great week. So it was a good one for me. I had a couple of trades in, and I'm going to show you. So let's do a quick trade recap. So let me pull this up. Alright, so let's start with the S&P 500. So on the 21st, I think around on the 22nd, I had this buy position on the S&P 500. I closed this at -1, so this stopped me out, -1. I went in for sales on the 23rd, right here. So I had my sell position right here, and this was an easy one because prices just went all the way to like the target point. So I closed this at +3%. So I had a hit right here, -1, and I closed this at +3%. All right, let's look at NAS100. All right, so with NAS100, I think on the 21st, I closed the first position I had, which was let's see, it was a sell position. I closed it at -0.1%. I attempted the buys, it didn't go perfectly, so I closed this at -0.2%. And then I went in for the sales. So right here, I went in for the sales. And if you know the way I trade NAS on the S&P, it's always like similar moves on the S&P and NAS. So I took the sales on this as well, and I closed this at +3.1%. So when you look at what happened on the S&P, the drop as well, 3% on the S&P, and you look at NAS, the drop as well, +3.1%. So it's always like similar moves on the S&P and NAS. So it's very easy to trade this pairs. If you analyze one correctly, you can trade the other one easily. All right, so let's look at US30. So I had another trade on US30. So right here, I think on the 23rd. So I had a sell attempt on the 23rd of October as well. So US30, I went for the sales. NAS, I went for the sales. S&P, I went for the sales. So I had my sales here on US30. Price started moving, and I closed it right here at +1.19%. And then I tried to do a buy on this. So I went in with 0.5% risks because I wasn't really sure. So I went in like 0.5% risks, and this stopped me out. So I had -0.5% on this one on the second try, but the first one I had +1.19%. So overall, I think it was a good week. So let's look at what's lining up for next week. So that was a trade recap. So now if you realize, I had a lot of trades I was going in, like looking for buys, coming in looking for sales, and that's because my overall bias on the DXY wasn't clear. So if you remember, if you watch the previous episode, you remember I was looking at the DXY as though it was trending, but I'm going to show you something right now. So let's look at the DXY properly, and I'll start from the daily time frame. So if you notice something, it looks a little bit different now. So last week, so if I'm not mistaken, last week I was looking at this play, I was looking at this sales, and I was looking at this as a pullback so that prices could continue moving to the downside. But when I had the difficulty picking trades on those other pairs, because I'll go in for the buys, then reanalyze, and then come in for the sales, I knew there was something wrong with my read on the DXY. So I came back on the DXY and I tried to, I zoomed out just to see what's happening on the bigger picture of it, and I realized what price is doing on the DXY. We've actually been ranging. So price has been sat in something like this, in this massive consolidation for a very long time. And when I saw this and I knew prices moving to the upside, that's why I had the sales on US30, I had the sales on NAS, and I had the sales on the S&P as well. So just looking at the DXY and understanding what the DXY was doing, it helped me to take those positions. So currently, let's look at the DXY. So now my bias on the DXY has to change because now I'm looking at it differently. And this is the first time in a long time I'm looking at a move like this, like a massive consolidation. And when you're trading consolidations, it's quite difficult because when you see the consolidation thing, it has played out for a very long time. So I was still looking at the DXY and trying to play out with the trends and stuff like that, but it wasn't really trending. So the DXY has actually been in a range. So you look at areas like this and prices bouncing off of areas like this. So this is what's currently happening on the DXY. So this is the daily time frame. Now the bias right now changes because we're no longer ranging now. Sorry, we're no longer trending. we're currently in the consolidation. So if you're in the consolidation, it's very easy as well. Price is going to bounce off of areas like this, and the next target has to be. So if price gets to an area like this, you should expect prices to move to the upside. If price reacts from an area like this, you should expect prices to move to the downside. You get this reaction, you expect prices to move to the downside. Same thing, you get prices moving to the downside. So I'm going to show you something real quick. So we had this massive move right here. We had an attempt again from buyers, it failed. We had this massive sell. So we had this massive sell right here. We had a push, we had an attempt again from the sellers, and it failed. So we should expect prices to move all the way to the next area. So that's 106. I think I'm looking at this psychological level right here of 106. So this is the area I'm looking at, 106. So that's the next psychological level price has to get to when you look at the DXY from the ranging state. So that's the bigger picture on the DXY currently. So we're currently ranging, and I'm expecting prices to move all the way to 106, and for us to see. So if price gets to 106, to an area like this, and it finds it difficult to go through this area, you should expect the same thing. You should expect the DXY to drop again to the downside. So I didn't see this, I don't know, like I think the past 2 weeks I didn't see this like properly, but now just sitting and looking at it and having difficulty sticking the buys and the sells, and then I had to zoom out to see what's actually happening on the DXY. It makes a lot of sense right now. So on the daily time frame on the DXY, for the first time in a very long time, so this is the range again, and this is how I look at ranges. So I'm looking at areas like this, I'm looking at areas like this, and it's quite easy. So price is currently ranging, so you should expect prices to move from an area like this, and there are just three states we can trade in. So you have a downtrend thing, yeah, you have your uptrend, and you have a range. So this is quite different, because when I'm trading ranges, I'm looking at this bounce off of areas like this, and I'm looking at bounces off of areas like this as well. Now once you're trading with, say, a trending market, it's quite different, because now you have something like this and you have something like this. So currently on the DXY on the daily time frame, we're moving to the upside. So I'm going to clean this and make it bigger so we can see. So now we know that price is moving to the upside, and so we're moving from this area to this area, and the next psych level right here is 106. So currently we're trading around 104. So let's break this down, and let's say we look at, say, the 8-hour time frame, and we look at the 4-hour time frame and the hourly time frame to see what's actually happening. So within a range as well, so if you have a range like this, you see this trend within these ranges. There's a trend here, there's a trend here. So there's lots of things you can do, because once price is ranging, you need to understand you have trends within a range. And I didn't see this like I didn't see it like last week and the week before that, because if I saw it, it'll have made my analysis much easier for me to work with. So let's look at the trends that's within this range and see if we can work with it. So on the daily time frame, there's no trend to work with currently. So if you look at it right here, so you look at it, so this move right here is just an impulse, so that's not a trend to work with. So let's step down to the 8-hour time frame, and let's see. So I'll just step down to the 8-hour time frame. So remember, I still have my psychological levels on, so within the range as well, the psychological levels are still there, and it's going to play a very important role when you look at it. So you look at price moving to the upside, pulling back, there's a move to the upside, there's a pull back. So we moved from 103, from this psychological level right here, to 104. Price went through 104, came back and tested 104. So the next level price has to get to has to be 105. So price is currently headed to 105. So we'll keep stepping down to lower time frames to see if there's a trend line we can work with and pair this up with a psychological level. So I'm cleaning this again. So this is the 8-hour time frame. So already I can see there's a trend building up in here, but it's not really clear on the 8-hour time frame. So let's step down to, like, say, the 4 hours. So I'll do this on the 4 hours. So I had this trend line already because I did the analysis on this already. So what's happening now on the 4-hour time frame? Now this becomes very easy for us to analyze. So remember the bigger picture. price is in the range, and we'll head it to the next level, and that is 106, which is this area right here. That's where we headed to. So we'll step down to lower time frames to see if there's a trend we can work with. So currently price is making this move. There's a pullback thing right here. There's a move, there's a pullback, there's a move, there's a pullback, there's a move, there's a pullback. So price is going to respect this unless this trend gets violated. So we should expect prices to move to say 105. Now there's a possibility we can face difficulties around this area right here. So if prices move to an area like this and there's difficulties, so this is how you know a trend is finding it difficult to continue and it might get violated. So if you find it difficult to go through this area, then we could see prices moving again deeper or pulling back deeper for us to take prices again to the upside. I'll show you this on the daily time frame. So let me put this on the daily and we'll come back to the 4-hour time frame. So look at what's happening here. So you have a range thing right here. So you have your range. So within the range you have prices moving, you have like an impulse, you have a correction, impulse, correction, impulse, correction. So the same thing, you have an impulse right here. So at some point you should expect a correction to come in and you see prices moving again to the upside. So you have an impulse, correction, impulse, correction, impulse, correction. That was even deeper, and you see prices moving to the upside. So within a range you should be able to pick out the trends that's within the range, but now it becomes really tricky and it becomes really difficult. So you need to understand how ranges play out, and then you can look for the trends within the ranges, and it makes a lot of sense. All right, cool. So that's it. So on the daily time frame, there's still a possibility for prices to push lower and come to like 103, but at this point I'm not really expecting prices to move all the way to like this area right here. I'm not really expecting prices to do something like that, but I'm expecting prices to give us, say, a pullback, and you see prices moving to the upside, and that's only if the trend on the 4-hour time frame gets violated. So if this trend here gets violated, this is what I'm expecting: a move like this, or a push down, test let's say 103, and we'll see prices moving again to the upside. So I'll take this off and then we'll step back to the 4-hour time frame and I'll show you. So on the 4-hour time frame now we have a trend to work with, and so we'll compare this up. So you have prices pulling back to 104, this area right here, and we've tested 104. So prices should continue moving to the upside, and the next level for us is 105. So it's one step at a time. So let's see how this continues moving to like 105. If we get a reaction around this area right here, and if there's that inability for prices to go through this area, we could see a deeper pullback, just as what I showed you on the daily time frame already. You see prices moving to the upside, or you get a deeper pullback to an area like this, and you see prices moving again to the upside. So that's it for me on the DXY. I'll probably look at the hourly, and let's look at the hourly time frame. There's not much of a difference compared to what's happening on the 4 hours, so it just gives you more price action to work with. So look at this right now. So you have your impulse thing, you have a correction, impulse, correction, impulse, correction, impulse again, correction, right around this psychological level of 104. The next level has to be 105, but pay attention to this area right here, because if price finds it difficult to go through this area, you might see deeper pullbacks coming in, maybe to an area like this, and you see prices moving to the upside. So that's it for me on the DXY. It's quite easy right now, and it makes a lot of sense. So currently price is moving to the upside. I like this, and if we keep respecting this area right here, if we keep respecting these areas, then it makes it really easy. So all you have to do, look at the trend, pick out the trend line thing, look at the levels. As price is pulling back, you're expecting prices to continue again to the upside. So with this analysis on the DXY, so the long-term bias on the DXY, when you look at it from the daily time frame, long-term bias on the DXY is for prices to go to the upside. So that's it. So when you look at other pairs, you should already start expecting pullbacks to come in on other pairs, and I'm going to show you how important this is. So just zooming out on this makes a lot of sense. So you know the DXY has this long-term move to like 106, which is an area like this. So with this in mind, it makes it very easy once we're analyzing other pairs. So that's a long-term bias thing on the DXY. Prices moving all the way to like 106, so that's taken care of already. You look at this on the hourly and what price is doing currently. There's a trend line you can work with. There's an impulse, you have your correction, you have another impulse, you have a correction, impulse, correction, impulse, correction. So let's look at prices going first to 105. We'll look at the reaction at 105, but we keep an eye out. So we keep watching this trend line thing. If it doesn't get violated, we'll maintain the move going to the upside. If it gets violated, you wait for a deeper pullback, because on the daily time frame, it's just going to pull back deeper and move again to the upside. So that's it for me on the DXY. So let's start now with the other pairs. So the first one is US30. So here's the 8-hour time frame. Let's start from the daily and I'll come back to the 8-hour and I'll tell you why I'm looking at the 8-hour time frame. So because I zoomed out on the DXY to see what's happening on the DXY, I had to zoom out on these other pairs as well, just to see the swings we're actually working with. So on US30 currently on the daily time frame, I'm going to do this real quick. We have this move right here, and everything here is just a pullback, is a consolidation thing. Price was ranging and you had another push, so you should expect prices again to pull back on the daily time frame for us to take prices to the upside. So that's a bigger move on US30, and this is going to take time. So I'm going to show you something. So when you look at this move right here, so let's say you look at this move right here, this took about 300 days just to play out like this, and this is taken already 361 days. So it's telling you already we should expect some pullbacks to come in. So like just expect pullbacks to come in. So on the daily time frame, this is my move right here, and everything right here was a pullback consolidation thing. You had another move right here. We should expect prices to pull back to an area like this, and then we'll take prices to the upside. This move on the daily time frame is going to take a lot of time, so we need to look at, say, other time frames to see if there's a trend we can work with. So in a situation like this, we'll step down to the 8-hour time frame real quick, and on the 8-hour time frame there's actually something we can work with. So on the 8-hour time frame, this is the move I'm looking at right now. On US30, you have this impulse right here, you have a correction, you have an impulse, you have a correction, price keeps coming back, you have an impulse, so I'm expecting prices to pull back to the trend line, and there's a psychological level right around there of 42,000, and for us to see prices moving again to the upside. So if prices pulls back to an area like this, I'll attempt the buys, and if it finds it difficult, it means this area might get violated, and this could be an early sign for you to look at what's happening again on the daily, because a violation of this 8-hour move to the upside could simply tell you price is trying to move back to the trend line on the daily time frame. So have this in mind. But currently this hasn't been taken out yet. So if you look at this on the 8-hour time frame, this trend line on the 8-hour time frame is still intact. So all you see right now, you have your move, you have a pullback, you have your move, you have a pullback, you have your move, you have your pullback. So we should expect prices to pull back to like 42,000. So if we can test 42,000, it makes it very easy. So a test of 42,000, you have the trend line around this area. We'll then have to reattempt the buys, and we're looking at these highs right here. So that's the game plan for me on US30. But we'll move down to lower time frames and I'll show you what I'm looking at as well. So let's look at the 4-hour time frame. So I had this trend line on the 4-hour time frame thing. Yeah, look at it. So when you look at this on the 4-hour time frame, you have an impulse thing, you have a correction, you had price moving up, you had an impulse, you had a consolidation, you had price moving up, you had an impulse, you had price pulling back to an area like this. So if we attempted the buys here, it failed. I think I said this during the trade recap thing, if I'm not mistaken. Then we had the sell, so I did take some sells on this. But looking at this right now, the 4-hour time frame, so you have this trend on the 4-hour time frame that's been taken out. So let's make this clean. So you have this trend on the 4-hour time frame. So price was moving and respecting this area, respecting this, you had an inability right here, and so currently you have a drop. So when you look at this drop on the 4-hour time frame, this already is a clear indication that some sales is going to come in. But as the sales are coming in, the reason I want you to look at the 8-hour time frame is because at some point this sales is going to slow down, maybe at say 42,000, and this could be an opportunity for those on the 8-hour time frame to take prices again to the upside. So look at this on the 8-hour time frame, and it's very important. So when we do the market focus thing, it's just to have a direction to play with. We're trying to look at prices from say the bigger picture, and then we wait for prices to come to our areas. We look for the setups, we look for the plays, and then we go in. So this is not me trading it, I'm just showing you what I'm looking at, what I'm expecting, or what I'm anticipating as well. So on the 8-hour time frame, we still have this area right here, and price hasn't really got into this area. So price has been respecting these areas right here like this. So we still have this play on the 8-hour time frame. So as per the 8-hour time frame, there's still a possibility for us to see prices pushing down, and we'll take prices again to the upside. So a clear indication of this is a 4-hour time frame, where you have this violation thing happening. Wait for this on the 8-hour time frame, because there's a bigger move on the 8-hour time frame, and so we should expect prices moving again to the upside. I'm not going to step down to the hourly, because the hourly and the 4 hours is in sync. So the same violation you see on the 4 hours is the same thing you see on the hourly time frame. So I'll pay attention also on US30. The time frame I'll pay attention to is the 8-hour time frame. So I'm looking at this move: impulse, correction, there's an impulse, there's a correction, there's an impulse right here. I'm waiting for the correction thing to happen so we can take the next move. So that's my analysis on US30. I hope this is easy to understand as well. So it's just a direction thing. All right, so let's look at the next pair, and this has to be NAS. So remember on the DXY, we have this long-term bias on the DXY because we're currently ranging. So you should already expect lots of pullbacks or lots of sells on this other currency pair, on these other pairs, like these indices, currencies, and stuff like that. So let's look at NAS. So this is the 8-hour time frame. I'll step back to that daily. All right, let's look at the daily. So what's the big move on the daily? So I zoomed out on this as well on the daily, just to understand what's happening. So when I zoomed out, I saw, all right, there's a move here, there's an impulse, there's a correction thing, there's an impulse, there's a correction, there's an impulse, there's a correction, and currently price is moving again to the upside. So eventually, every time price gets to an area like this, you should expect moves to the upside. So on the daily time frame, if you're respecting the trend line on the daily time frame, then you have to wait for prices to pull back so we can take prices again to the upside. But currently on the daily time frame, this is not what I'm looking at, so I need to step down to hold on. If I do something like this on the daily time frame, so I'm still expecting prices to move to an area like this, and we can take prices to the upside. But this is not visible like currently on the daily time frame, because we're still expecting the pullbacks on the daily time frame. What you can do is step down to the 8-hour time frame and ask yourself the same question: is there a trend line you can work with on the 8-hour time frame? So once you're done with the trend line on the 8-hour time frame, then you can deliver to the daily time frame. So currently on NAS100, this is the move I'm looking at. So you have an impulse thing right here, you had a correction, you had buys again, you had an impulse. So I'm waiting for the correction. So while waiting for this correction, there's two things I'm looking at. The first thing is a psychological level right here. You have 20,000. So there's 20,000, this psychological level right here, and you have this trend line as well around this area. So I'm waiting for these pullbacks to come in, and I'm looking for a possibility to buy to the upside. Now if these pullbacks come in, so let's look at this. So let's say you have this impulse thing and the pullback comes into an area like this, and we try to buy, because that's what I'm going to do. If prices pulls back to an area like 20,000, this trend line, and it finds it difficult to go through this area, so we see prices staying around this area, so I'm looking for a buy around this area. If we find it difficult then to take out these highs, it means sellers are coming in. We might see a violation of this trend line on the 8-hour time frame, which only delivers prices to the daily trend line. So in as much as we're still trading on the 8-hour time frame, this is the move I'm expecting. Sells to an area like this and buys. So that's very easy, it's just a direction thing. Wait for the pullbacks to come in and then you look for the buys again to the upside. So all you're doing is impulse correction, impulse, you wait for the correction to take the next impulsive move. So that's quite easy. So let's step down to let's step down to the 4-hour time frame and I'll show you. So on the 4-hour time frame, if you look at the same thing, there's an impulse, there's a correction, impulse. You had a correction here, fail to take out these highs or to stay above this area to take prices to 21,000. So currently I'm expecting prices to then sell maybe to like 20,000, respect the move that's coming in from the 8-hour time frame, and then we'll reattempt this move to see if we can take prices all the way to 21,000. So that's what I'm looking at on NAS100, and I think it's an easy play as well. It's not very complex, it's very easy if you understand the way the trend lines work and the time frames and stuff like that. So that's what I'm looking at on NAS100. You can look at this on the hourly as well. It doesn't make much of a difference. So let's look at this on the hourly. So when you look at this on the hourly, so you had an impulsive move, you had a correction, same thing, inability from this area to take out this. So those that work in the community with me, so there's a setup we normally look at, and normally this move was supposed to take out these highs like impulsively. So if you find it difficult to take out these highs, it's a failed setup for us, and then we're expecting those prices again to pull back. And so once it pulls back, it's going to drop, say, to the 8-hour time frame, and you can look for the buys again from that area. So that's what I'm looking at. So it makes it very easy now because we have this understanding on the DXY, and you can look at it on the daily. So we have this understanding on the DXY. We know where price is most likely going to head to. We start looking for the trends within this consolidation thing. You step down to the hourly, you see the trend you can work with right here. You see the trend you can work with right here. And as price is doing this, pulling back to an area like this, it just gives you a visual representation of what price is doing. So every time price pulls back to an area like this, you should expect prices to move to the upside. If this move to the upside continues on the DXY, you should expect prices to pull back on other pairs. So I'm looking at this on NAS, so you should expect prices to pull back on these other pairs. Now if this pullbacks start coming in, you should expect the 8-hour time frame delivery. So it's going to violate on the hourly, the 4 hours, but then it delivers back to the 8-hour time frame. So that's something I'm looking at right here on the 8-hour time frame. So that's it. So this is my move currently. Impulse correction, impulse, wait for the correction, take the next impulsive move. So that's what I'm looking at on the 8-hour time frame. So the 8-hour time frame is what I'm paying attention to on NAS100, and I'm going to respect this. I'm going to maintain this bias on NAS100 and see how it plays out. All right, cool. So that's it for NAS100. Let's look at the next one. That has to be the S&P. So the S&P, I put this on the 8-hour time frame, but let's look at the daily. All right, let's start with the daily time frame. So I had to zoom out on lots of these pairs because of the massive consolidation I saw on the DXY. So I had to zoom out because last week, yeah, I think we was just focused on an area like this, but I had to zoom out to see the bigger picture. So this is like the S&P thing on the daily time frame. So I zoomed out already, that's why you can't see it properly. But once we step down to lower time frames, I'll zoom in again to show you. But this is the impulse thing. You have a correction, there's an impulse, there's a correction, there's an impulse, and you should wait for the correction. Now I know this looks a little bit different from what you normally see, but yes, this is the impulse correction, impulse correction, impulse correction. There's a video thing that's coming out. The next video I'm doing is going to explain to you how to do the trend line thing, how to draw the trend lines and how to pick these trend lines properly on different time frames. So pay attention to that. I think it's going to drop next week on Wednesday or Tuesday, so pay attention to that as well. So this one I'm looking at right here, so there's an impulse thing, right? You have an impulse correction, impulse correction, impulse correction. So currently on the daily time frame, price hasn't pulled back to the daily trend line. So what we can do is step down to the 8-hour time frame, and I have this area on the 8-hour time frame I'm looking at. So the same thing, yeah, you have this impulse correction, impulse correction, impulse correction, impulse. You should wait for prices to pull back to the 8-hour time frame so we can play with. So if I zoom in on this right now, so this is the area we're looking at on the 8-hour time frame. So this makes it really easy right now. So you look at this, there's an impulse thing, you have a correction, price took off from an area like this, so there's another impulse, and we should wait for prices to come back. So the question is, if this is an impulse, let me clean this. If this is an impulse and this is a correction, why is this not the impulse and this is the correction? Because it has to do with the time frames. So on the 8-hour time frame, this is not a correction I'm looking for right here. So everything here is an impulse, and I'm waiting for the correction. So again, pay attention to the video that comes out on trend lines, because it's going to help you understand this trend line thing and simplify everything for you. So here is it. Impulse correction, price took off. So impulse, we're waiting for prices to come back. So we're waiting for this correction thing. So the areas I'm looking at, you have 57,000 right here, this psychological number, and this trend line. So if prices pulls back to an area like this, we should take prices all the way to the upside. So that's what I'm looking at on the 8-hour time frame on the S&P 500. So it's very easy and you can look at it. So I'll probably zoom in at an area like this. So let's look at the psychological levels we're working on right now. So price is currently trading between 5,800 and 5,900. So we had this impulsive move, we didn't really get to 5,900, and sellers came back. So we're playing within an area like this. If we see sellers stepping in again at an area like this, we should expect prices to move all the way to like 5,700. So if prices starts moving and you see prices going below 5,800, testing 5,800, you should expect prices to move all the way to 5,700. So that's it. It's a very easy play. It's just a direction thing again. So all I'm trying to do is look for the direction. I'm trying to understand where price is most likely going to gravitate to. Because if you have this correct, so if you can focus this correctly, it makes it very easy once you're trading it. So I'm expecting this to happen, and if prices starts trading below 5,800, the next level has to be 5,700. So you look at an area like this, you have 5,700 right here, you have this trend line right here, and price has been respecting this area, moving to the upside. So you can, so this is the 8-hour time frame. If this price starts pulling back to an area like this, that's massive. So we should expect prices to move again to the upside. So if you're looking for like a temporal move to play with, you can look for these sells, and then the long-term move again on the 8-hour time frame has to be the buys. So temporal moves on the S&P 500, sells, long-term, buys. So that's it for the S&P on the 8-hour time frame. I'll look at the 4-hour time frame, because if you see a violation on the 4-hour time frame, it's a heads up. It's just telling you the violation thing you see on the 4-hour time frame could be a delivery on the 8-hour time frame. So let's look at the 4-hour time frame. All right, cool. So the 4-hour time frame and the 8-hour time frame. So this is what I have right here. All right, cool. So this, I'll keep this on the 8-hour time frame. So this is this. So you know what, let me edit this, because this is a trend thing I was looking on the 4-hour time frame right here. All right, cool. So this is it on the 4-hour time frame. I think I placed that wrongly. So on the 4-hour time frame, if you look at this, so you have this impulse, so you had the correction thing, you had the next impulse. I was expecting prices to buy from here. It failed to do it. So currently we're trading outside this trend line thing. So this is a clear indication that price is probably going to move again to the downside. So when you combine this with what's happening on the 8-hour time frame, and I'm expecting prices to move all the way to like 5,700, which is a psychological level right here. So once price moves to an area like this, this is going to like fall in sync with what's happening on the 8-hour time frame. and I'll look for possibilities to buy to the upside. So that's what I'm looking at. So pay attention to this. So the 4-hour time frame, this trend on the 4-hour time frame, this is done and over with. It's done already. So this could be a clear sign or an early indication for prices to pull back to 5,700. Look at its psychological level around 5,700. Look at the trend line on the 8-hour time frame, something like this. So this is it. So this is a move I'm looking at. Move right here, get a pullback, and a move to the upside. So when you look at prices, say from a bigger picture, like the bigger picture of it, bigger point of view, it makes it really easy to take those micro trades. So then if you have this at the back of your mind, you could look for temporary sells. You need to be skillful to pull this one off, because now price is moving to the upside. So every sell you take is like counter trend. So it's kind of tricky. It's not difficult, it's just tricky. You need to know when to go in and when to go out. So you can do say temporary sells to an area like this, but the long-term thing for me is to see prices playing off of 5,700, so we can take prices again to the upside. So that's it. If you look at this on the 4-hour time frame, clear indication this trend is done and over with. You should see prices moving to the downside. You can look at this on the hourly, and the hourly, yeah, perfect. So on the hourly time frame, the same thing. We have on the 4 hours, impulse correction, impulse. We needed a correction for this, it failed. So I'm expecting prices to move all the way to 5,700. So this is quite easy as well. So all you have to do right now is pay attention to the 8-hour time frame. So this is the game plan for me on the 8-hour time frame. So here's a game plan for me. Am I looking at this? Yeah. So this is a game plan for me on the 8-hour time frame. So you have this impulse thing, you have a correction, you have an impulse, and I'm waiting for the correction to come in so we can try this. So temporary trades for me on this will probably be sells, and then the long term will be this buys again to the upside. So that's it for the S&P500. It's quite similar to what's happening on NAS. So if you look at NAS as well, you have your impulse thing, correction, impulse right here. Expect prices to move back to like 20,000, which is this area. You expect prices to move again to the upside. The only difference is on the S&P, you're looking at different price levels, impulse, correction, impulse, and I'm expecting prices to move say to 5,700. Now this is very funny because look at this, this can be tricky. You could see prices consolidating around this area right here. So moving up and down like this till you get to an area like this, and so prices could stay above 5,800, and that's another possibility. But if I'm going off of this trend lines being taken out and violated, we should see prices moving all the way to 5,700, so we can take the buys again to the upside. So that's it for me on say the S&P 500. So let's look at the last one. I think this one is quite beautiful as well, because it has to be gold. So we've done US30, NAS, S&P. All right, let's look at gold. So this is the hourly time frame. I'll come back to this. Let's look at the daily time frame. All right, so I had to zoom out on most pairs, as I told you guys already. I had to zoom out just to see the overall picture thing. Yeah, so look at this, pay attention to this. So you have the swing on the daily time frame, you have a pullback, and you have that swing right here. So on the daily time frame on gold, we should expect prices to pull back to this trend line, so we can attempt the buys again from the daily time frame. But currently price is going to take a long time to pull back on gold to this daily trend line. So I'm going to keep this trend line here, and this trend line on the daily time frame is going to be here for a very long time. Trust me, it can, like this can be here for like 6 months. I'm not going to touch it. So look at today's date and look at this trend line thing. So pay attention to this. Here's the impulse, here's a correction, here's the impulse. Eventually we have to sell back to an area like this to see prices going to the upside, or you get a fail and you see prices moving to the downside. So I'm not going to touch this trend line thing on gold. So let's look at say the 8-hour time frame, if there's a trend line we can work with. So I had this trend lines plotted out already, So now looking at this on the 8-hour time frame, it's a similar move. You have your impulse thing, you have a correction, you have an impulse. Everything right here is an impulse on the 8-hour time frame. So we should expect a correction to see prices moving again to the upside. So from the daily time frame, the trend I'm looking on the daily time frame is different from what I'm looking on the 8-hour time frame. So the same thing, you should expect sales to come in on the 8-hour time frame to an area like this, so we can take prices again to the upside. This is massive. It's going to take time for prices to pull back. So what we can do is look at the 4-hour time frame. I think there's something we can work with on the 4-hour time frame. So this right here is a trend line thing on the 4-hour time frame. I'm going to zoom in again so you can see. So you have impulse, you have a correction, impulse, correction. So every time price pulls back to an area like this, it will bind. Every time price pulls back, you bind. So currently you have another impulse right here. You should expect prices to pull back to an area like this, so we can take the buys again to the upside. So on the 4-hour time frame, again, just like what's happening on the 8-hour time frame, it's still very massive. It's still going to take time for those prices to pull back. Bear in mind, yeah, the DXY is moving to the upside. We're in the range, and there's a trend thing on the DXY on the hourly time frame. If it maintains that movement to the upside, you should expect these guys to sell, so you can look for the buys again. So now we can step down to the hourly, because there's something we can work with on the hourly. So now this right here, so everything that we're talking about from daily coming down to the hourly, it resolves to something like this. So now let's look at this. It becomes very easy. I'll zoom in again just in a minute. You have an impulse thing, you have a correction. You have an impulse, you should wait for this correction and for prices to move again to the upside. Quite easy. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to zoom in on this. So this is the area we're working with currently on gold. Yeah, all right, cool. So this is what we're working with. So we have a trend line thing right here, so price is moving to the upside. We have an impulsive move right here, so we see prices trying to move to the upside. So we went through the psychological level of 2700. We haven't tested 2700, so there's a high possibility price has to pull back to 2700. So you know the way we trade with psychological levels, once price goes through a psych level, expect prices to pull back to the psychological level. So that's something I'm paying attention to. So the two principles, again, psychological levels we're working with. So I'm looking at 2700 right here, and I'm looking at 2800. So this is a game plan. So you have this impulse right here. We should wait for the correction to come in. So the first level I'm looking at once the correction comes in has to be the 2700 level, this psychological level right here. And if price pulls back to this psychological level and it stays above this area, so price can range within this area. There's another possibility. You could see price ranging above this area, and you see prices moving again to the upside. That's a possibility. And another possibility could be, let's say you see prices moving back to an area like this, you get a test of this area, and you see prices moving to the upside. So currently on gold, I would say I would look for sales, like temporal sales, but the main move for me on gold has to be the buys to the upside. So I'll pay attention to what's happening. But when you look at this on the hourly time frame, pay attention to what happened on, say, the 8-hour time frame. I'm not going to look at the daily because it's going to take like a long time for those prices to drop to the daily trend. So look at this on the 8-hour time frame. So you had this move right here, and we're expecting prices to pull back to an area like this. Again, this is massive, and it's going to take a lot of time. I draw my trend lines differently. So this, when drawing trend lines, I'm paying attention to time frames, I'm paying attention to different things. So when I tell you this has to pull back to an area like this, it's a very big possibility. So it's going to take time. You step down to the 4-hour time frame, the same thing again right here. You have this impulse, you have this correction thing, you have this impulse. Price has to pull back to an area like this to confirm or to align with what's happening on the 4-hour time frame. It's going to take a lot of time for this to happen. So what you can do is step down to, say, the hourly time frame and look for the trend you can work with on the hourly time frame. So here's my trend line thing on the hourly time frame right here. So I explained this already. So you have this impulse, you have the correction, cycle level, trend line, impulse, wait for these prices to pull back 2700. There's a cycle level, there's a trend line, and we should expect prices to move again to the upside. So once I zoom in right now, like this, once I zoom in right here, so the temporal move for me on gold has to be sales, and I'm looking at 2700. And the long-term move has to be an attempt again to take prices to the upside. So having this in mind, remember what's happening on the DXY. I'm expecting prices to move all the way to 105 and eventually 106, but there's a possibility for us to see a deeper pullback coming in for these prices to move again to the upside. So when you combine all these things, you have these things in mind, you can look at something like gold and say, all right, cool, if the DXY does a pullback thing before moving to the upside, so you could see this guy coming down and you see this guy moving again to the upside. So there's just a lot of possibilities. So pay attention to what's happening on the DXY, pay attention to what's happening on all these pairs, gold, US30, NAS100, S&P, and BTC as well. So pay attention to BTC. So you should expect some drops on BTC before the buys. I don't analyze BTC right here because there's not a lot of people on my thing that's doing cryptos. All right, cool. But use the comment section and tell me if there's something, if there's a pair you want me to look at. Just use the comment section and tell me and we'll look at it. So quick recap thing, yeah. DXY, long-term move. Look at the daily time frame right here. So long-term move is for prices to move all the way to 106. You might get a pullback like this for these prices to move to the upside. So that's it, that's a possibility. So long term, a move like this. Temporal moves could be, say, pullbacks like this for you to see that move again to the upside. And again, this can respect the move on this time frame, like the hourly, and you see prices just continuing to the upside, but it's not likely. At some point, you should expect a pullback thing to come in. So that's one possibility on the DXY. On the S&P 500, pay attention to the 8-hour time frame. You should get prices pulling back. You see an attempt like this. On NAS100 as well, you should expect prices to pull back to an area like 20,000, and you see prices moving all the way to 21,000. And on US30, prices really close to this area already. So prices close to 42,000. So we wait for the reaction around this area of 42,000. If you see this inability, just look what happened right here. You see the inability here. You should see prices taking off to the upside. That's a possibility as well. And on gold, so we're looking at this on the hourly time frame. We're looking for prices to pull back to an area like this, 2700. Wait for the reaction around this area with a trend line thing as well. You'll see prices moving again to the upside. So there's a lot we can do coming into next week, and I'm going to pay attention to this, and I think we'll have like some proper trades to take. So guys, so if you have difficulties with trend lines, with psychological levels, there's a link in the description thing. So just sign up use the link and sign up, and I can do a quick one-on-one Zoom call with you and explain certain things to you on how I look at this, how I look at my trend lines, how I look at my psychological levels. It's quite free. I'm not asking for anything. So you can use the link. It's going to be in the description thing. Just book a one-on-one Zoom call thing with me, and I'll show you how to do the trend lines on any pair. So pick any pair of your choice. Just let me know. Is it related to psychological levels? Is it related to trend lines? And I'll help you. I'll use my principles and show you how you can focus, how you can analyze and pick the trades as well. So watch out for the next video that's coming on. So the next video, just watch this next video as well. It's going to help you understand the principles I use on trend lines. So that's it for this week, guys. See you during the next one, and bye for now.